When we hear the phrase, go the extra mile, we almost immediately start shaking our heads. Please don't make me go and do more than I have to do. But what if personal and professional transformation is on the other side of going that extra distance? Well, we're talking about it today. Welcome to Epic Everywhere, practical teaching to help you grow in your faith no matter where you are on your spiritual journey. And welcome to anyone joining us for the first time today. My name is Emily and I'm the pastor of Epic Online, and it's so good to be with you. You know, the fall is off and running. I'm starting to see the leaves falling, school's back in session, and we get to root on our beloved Eagles tomorrow night for our home opener. Let's go! Hey, on top of that, right here at church, it was fall kickoff last week. We started our workflow series, sign-ups for a new semester of groups are open, and this week, groups start meeting. You know, we think being in a group is an important part of spiritual growth because of the community that it provides. And I know that some of you are thinking, yeah, no, I'm good. I don't need any of that. Why do I know that? Because I was thinking the same thing before I joined one, and so was Domonique. But then she gave groups a try.
Hi, Epic fam. My name is Domonique Wells-Moats, and I'm part of the one and only Center City location. Wanted to tell you a little bit about my group experience. I finally joined a group after years and years of dodging groups. I was always saying I don't need it. I don't want to meet new people, but it was definitely worth it. We had covered Bianca Olthoff's series in that they covered Acts 16, the story of Paul and Silas and how they were wrongfully imprisoned, but in the midst of their storm, they still managed to praise God. And it's hard doing that. It's truly hard doing that. And you think, one thing can happen, you just let it ruin your whole day. I've learned I can't let that happen. I've chose to start my day better off, even my commute to work. I've listened to praise music and just give it all to God. Be thankful that I have woken up. Be thankful that I have a job to go to. Be thankful I have my friends, my family, and just be thankful for life, that I'm one of God's children. And so I'm so happy I joined to just receive that message because it was exactly what I needed. And I would say one thing that I did find challenging, and I'm still working on it, is learning that it is God's timing, right? I'm a big planner. I have a plan A, B, C, sometimes D. I'm overboard. I don't like to be blindsided. But knowing that is in God's timing, I know I may want something, but God is making sure I am prepared to receive His blessing. So again, it is very hard, but I'm still working on it and still learning it. But so happy I did learn all of these gems, these tools in group, and it was exactly what I needed to hear. And I'm hoping it's exactly what you needed to hear, and just know, just join the group. And just stop making excuses. What are you making excuses for? What are you waiting for? So this is part of my journey. My name is Domonique, and I'm all in.
So much for sharing, Dom. Listen, don't put off the opportunity to grow relationally and spiritually in a way that maybe you didn't think was possible. So right now, we're all going to go ahead and take time to text in so we can access the hub, get signed up for a group, and get access to some other things that we think will be really helpful for you. To text in, you can go ahead and scan the QR code on the screen or text here to 215-999-8575. In fact, when you text in for the first time, we'll send you a free Epic t-shirt just to say thanks for being here. In addition to signing up for a group, you can also share a prayer request on the hub. We want you to be able to share whatever you might be going through, so let us know what that looks like for you today. For those of you who are newer to Epic, we are on a 2-year growth journey called All In, where we're learning what it looks like to be totally devoted followers of Jesus. And part of this journey really includes growing in our generosity and our giving. Our goal is to further the mission of our church to see every person in the city know Jesus. So thank you so much to everyone who gives towards our mission. Listen, if you'd like to do that, if you'd like to give, you can do that right through the hub or on our website. Well, as I mentioned, we're in a new series called Workflow, and as a part of the series, we thought it would be super fun to crash the workplace of some of our Epic fam. Last week, we got to be firefighters for the day. And before we get to today's message, we're gonna meet Emily. Now, when it comes to her work, she really knows, how do I say this? She really knows how to knock it out of the park.
Man, all right, so back on the road again. OT was great. It was very cool seeing all that. But today has the potential to maybe be even cooler.
We are going to see the home of the Fightin' Phils.
And really, that's why I'm a Pittsburgh Pirates fan. Bleed black and gold.
Dude, that's awesome. Well, I think that's going to play into today's episode pretty well because we're here with Emily Rutson, who works on production for the Philadelphia Phillies, and I think this is probably going to be one of the coolest tours we do for this whole series. So let's get inside.
Phillies Productions is what we call ourselves. There's those of us who work games, which is what I do, and what I'll show you up in Fanavision. I produce on game days, so we actually have 3 producers right now, but I am kind of the senior producer. So I probably work like 2/3 to 3/4 of the games producing up in Fanavision, and then I also produce a lot of the content, like feature content that you would see on video board if you came to a game. This is a sponsor feature for Chick-fil-A, obviously. They sponsor like, they call it the nugget of the game, but essentially just like this moment, this day in Phillies history or things like this. We script out every inning, so like middle of the first inning, we've got this sponsor thing, we've got this sponsor thing, sponsor. So basically every inning has at least one thing, if not 2, sometimes 3 things. From ideation, brainstorming, creating a feature, designing graphics, doing all that, and then also once we get in season, tracking, making sure it's running when it's supposed to. My whole thing was my whole life. Like, I just love baseball. I always wanted to work in baseball. I went to school, got a degree in broadcasting because I wanted to work in baseball. Since I was 17, I've worked in baseball. These are all the teams I've worked for, minor and major. So when the Phillies came calling, I was happy to answer the phone for whichever team was going to take me at the major league level. And I found a home here. So there are regional Emmys. So we're part of the Northeast chapter, basically, of course. So there's a bunch of different categories. These are from 2 different years. This one's from last year. And this one is entertainment long-form content. Basically, we did a Fanatic movie that was like 10 minutes long for 4th of July.
Nice.
And,
okay, cool.
This one was from when we retired Roy Halladay's number of years ago. We did a tribute video for that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Everything in this room is new to last season. The carpet, the paint on the walls, every computer, every TV, every piece of equipment is a year and a half old. Fun fact, our scoreboard is the 2nd largest in baseball. It's about 70% larger than the previous version of Fanavision. The largest scoreboard in baseball is the Mets, and it's because we announced our height, our width at the same time as they did, and they were like, we're just gonna want to be better than the Phillies, and they made it like a foot longer. It's gonna sound a little corny, but I love baseball, right? So this is what I've always wanted to do. And when I come into work, there are days that are frustrating and days that are hard, days where I'm tired, it's a long season. But at the end of the day, when I look out and there's 45,000 people here and they all paid to come in here and I got paid to be here. So, it's just kind of an added bonus that I get to do something that for so many people is a recreation. I get to do something creative and kind of use those talents that I think I have. And I get to apply it to something that I really care about and have always cared about. I think that God gives us desires for a reason, and He gives us talents for a reason, right? So I think for me personally, like I have this kind of creative blend of entertainment and humor and like the baseball knowledge and the passion for baseball. People ask me all the time, like, why do you love baseball so much? What got you into it? Of course, I played when I was a kid, but like nobody told me to do it. Nobody pushed me into it, and it's been my thing since day one. So I don't think that can come from anywhere other than God, right? Like for whatever reason, like this is going to be a thing for you, because I think a lot of people go through life, you don't really know what your purpose is or what your passion is, and it was just kind of handed to me on a platter when I was very young, so it's cool.
Operating at this level is pretty high professional level, but it's, knowing the people behind it are good people and have a real passion for it, and it's not just just grabbing a paycheck and getting out. And it's cool that we got this going. So that's it for our today's episode, and don't know. We're going to hit the road and hit the next one. See you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Well, hey everybody, my name's Kent. I'm lead pastor here at Epic, and I'm so glad you're doing church with us today. We're in a series called Workflow, all about work. Last week, we kicked things off by talking about the purpose of work. And it's really important that you know the purpose of work, and here's the reason why. It's because you'll never understand your purpose at work until you understand the purpose of work. And so if you missed that, I want to encourage you, make sure you go back and catch up. Now, I also want you to know that this series is for everybody. Like, even if you don't have a traditional 9 to 5, we all have some kind of work to do. If you're a student, then that's your work. If you're a stay-at-home parent, then that's your work. If you don't have a job, then looking for a job is your work. Like, that's your job. If you're retired, but you volunteer somewhere or you babysit the grandkids from time to time, then that's your work. Like, we all have some kind of work to do. And so this series is for all of us. And one of our goals last week was to leave you knowing that your work matters. Like, it really matters. But regardless of what it is that you do for work, it has an incredible amount of value and worth because it matters to God, it matters to the rest of the world, and it should matter to you because it's part of your purpose. It's part of what you were created to do. And get this, we learned this last week, that our work was actually meant to be enjoyed. And so if you want to learn more about that or that idea, then I've got a book recommendation for you that you should totally check out. So here's the book, Every Good Endeavor by Tim Keller. It's a great read, all right? So get it, read it, pass it along. I encourage you to do that, all right? Now, last week, we wanted you to know that your work matters. Today, I want you to know that how you work matters. Like, how you do whatever it is that you do really matters. And so to kind of kick things off, I want to start with a question. And honestly, it's because I love the power of a good question. You know what I mean by that? Like, you can bring so much clarity, so much insight. And so here's some examples of some good questions. Here's one. Here's a question we ask each other in my work circle. What's it like being on the other side of me? And then you just let the other person talk. Right? Like, that's a good question. What's it like being on the other side of me? Hey, here's another one. If you could try anything and you knew you couldn't fail, what would you try? What would you do? It's a good question. Hey, here's another one. We ask this question whenever we're hiring or interviewing somebody. We ask this question, what have you done? Like, we know that you were part of a staff team before. We know that you worked somewhere. We know that you had projects, but what have you done? What have you accomplished? Like, did you start anything? Did you make anything better? What have you done? Because that tells you a lot about the person. That's a good question. So the question for our discussion today is this. Knowing what you know about you, would you hire you? That's a good one, isn't it? Knowing what you know about you, would you hire you? Like, knowing how you spend your time at work and knowing like how good you've become at minimizing the screen whenever someone walks by so they know you're not kind of surfing the web. Knowing how much your mind wanders throughout the day and you're not really on task and doing your work. Would you hire you? Like, whenever you think about your work habits, like when you get there, when you show up, when you leave, how productive you are while you're there, knowing what you know about you, would you hire you? Good question. Now, I don't think anybody would argue that how we work doesn't matter. Like, we all know that it does. And if we ask 30 or 40 people why, my guess is that we'd get about 30 or 40 different answers why how we work matters. Now, some people would say that how we work matters because that's how we achieve goals, like both for ourselves and for our company or our team. That's how we achieve goals. How we work matters. That's how we get there. Other people would say how we work matters because it brings job security, right? Like, working hard makes you an asset to the organization, right? And so you get to keep your job. Come on, that's a good day when you get to keep your job. That's awesome. Now, other people would say that how you work matters because that's what leads to career advancement. Like if you want to get promoted, if you want to climb the ladder, if you want to make more money, then how you work matters. Other people would say that how you work matters because it leads to a personal sense of pride and accomplishment. We talked about this last week, that there really is some fulfillment that comes as a result of a job well done. All of those things are true, and all of those things are important. But if you're a follower of Jesus, there's another reason why how you work matters. And here it is. How you work matters because the people that you work with matter to God. How you work matters because the people you work with matter to God. And whenever you find yourself in their presence, whenever you're working alongside of them, you play a very, very important role in their lives. And the reason why I say that is because it's something that Jesus said, that if you grew up in church, you probably heard many, many times before. And today we're going to look at it, but we're going to look at it through the lens of our work. And so here it is, Matthew chapter 5, verse 14. Jesus said this, "You are the light of the world." You are the light of the world. You are the light. You're the revealer of something to the rest of the world, because that's what light does. It reveals things. And whenever we think of world, we think like the entire globe. But here in this context, it's much more personal than that. It's saying you are the light to your world. You're the light to your sphere or your circle of influence. Now, the truth is that we have three primary spheres of influence: our family, our friends, and our work. And as important as our family and our friends are, the truth is that many of us will spend as much time, and in some cases, even more time, with the people that we work with than we do with the people that we play with, and maybe even some of the people that we live with. And so whenever you think about your sphere or your circle of influence, work is so important because we spend really the best hours of our day at work. Jesus says here that while you're there, you are the light of the world. And more specifically, we could say it this way, that you are the light of your work. You are the light of your work. That's what you are. God created you to be that, made you to be that. Now, whenever you or I go to work, we don't think about that very often. We don't even think that way. You know what we're thinking? We're thinking, all right, so when do I have to be there? What do I need to do while I'm there? What projects need to be pushed forward? What things need to be figured out? When do I get to go home? What do I need to make happen? Those are the things that we preoccupy ourselves thinking about. But we need to remember that there's also something else that's at play. And that is that we're called to be the light of our work. He goes on, here's what he says, verse 16. He says, here's how I want you to do that. Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your work ethic and promote you. No, that's not what it says. It doesn't say that at all. In fact, it has nothing to do with glorifying your work ethic and promoting you. That's not what's said, but honestly, the truth is that that's how we see it. Oftentimes we go to work and we do a good job. We let our light shine so that others will see it, glorify our work ethic or glorify our talent or our ability, so that hopefully we'll eventually be promoted. And I'm not saying that that's all bad. It's not. I think you should do all of those things. But if you're a follower of Jesus, then while you're doing all of that, while you're trying to climb the ladder, while you're giving your absolute best, you need to do all those things in such a way that people begin to take notice and begin to connect the dots from seeing how you do your work to the bigger reason of why it is you work the way that you do. Here's what Jesus actually said in that verse, Matthew chapter 5, verse 16. He says, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Not your work ethic, not your talent, not your ability, not your accomplishments, but your Father in heaven. And here is this idea that there should be something about the way that we work, something about the way that we do our job that should be so different, so other, so not like everybody else, that it makes people wonder why. Why do they do it that way? Why do they put so much effort? Why do they put so much heart into their job? Why? See, if you're a Christian, then excellence matters. Having integrity matters. Having a great attitude matters. Being gracious and believing the best about others, that matters. Speaking the truth in love matters. Being considerate to others matters. Giving your absolute best matters. And how you work, it really matters. And here's the reason why. It's because everything speaks. Like everything you do says something to the people around you. It speaks, right? Like at your workplace, you gotta realize it is an incredible platform and an incredible opportunity to impact the lives of the people that are around you. In fact, for most of us, other than raising our children, our workplace is the greatest opportunity that we'll ever have to impact other people, simply because of the amount of time that we spend with one another. And so the quality of your work says something about what drives you and what's important to you. The quality of your work says something about what you're committed to. And how you live your life out while you're at work says something about what it means to be a follower of Jesus and the difference that makes in a person's life. In fact, one of the primary purposes of your life at work is to show that God is at work in your life. One of the primary purposes of your life at work is to show that God is at work in your life. And so we should be people who are full of grace. We should be people who choose to be loving. We should be people who have integrity all the time, even when it's not convenient. We should be people who are team players. We should add value. We should be an asset to the organization. We should give our absolute best. Why? Because everything speaks. Everything speaks. It says something. And you and I, we should do our work in a way that makes people say, oh, wow, like there's something different about her. Like she's not just out for herself. She makes all of us better. There's something different about him. Like he celebrates other people whenever they succeed. Like he gives his best even when he doesn't have to. Like he's always trying to help make things better. Wow. They chose integrity instead of just the big payday. Like that's amazing that they did that. Listen, I know it's hard, but I want to encourage you, like especially if you find yourself in a sales job, don't sacrifice your integrity on the altar of profit. Profit will come and go. I mean, it's important. Don't get me wrong. But you need to know it's going to come and go, right? It's not worth your integrity. For some of you, that might even cost you a job. But there are other jobs. You only have one reputation. Listen, if you're a follower of Jesus, people in watching how you work, how you conduct yourself, how you carry yourself, they should get a glimpse of what God is like. But the way you live your life out while you're at work. Because part of the purpose of your life at work is to show that God is at work in your life. Okay, so all that said, all right, how do we actually do that? Like really, how do we do that? Well, a little further down in this same chapter, Jesus here in Matthew 5, he says something so challenging, so audacious, almost ridiculous even, that it left everybody who was listening there stunned. And let me ask you a question. You ever heard someone use the phrase or talk about going the extra mile? Well, it turns out that Jesus was the one who came up with that. Like it was his idea. See, at the time, a Roman centurion could force any non-Roman citizen to carry something for him for a mile in any direction. That was part of the law. If you were a non-Roman citizen, he could just look at you and be like, here, carry this for the next mile. People hated that, but it was in the law. You had no choice. You couldn't fight back. You couldn't argue. You just had to do it. And so whenever people would see Roman soldiers start packing up their stuff, they'd scatter. They'd run away because they didn't want to get picked to have to carry something. And it's kind of like my kids, whenever there's time to do some yard work around our house, they gone. Like they are gone. Like all of a sudden they got homework to do, or they got to study, or, you know, I feel like they're coming down with polio or something like that, you know? It's just any excuse they can to get out of it. They don't want to be around for it. Anyways, here's what Jesus actually said about that. Matthew chapter 5, verse 41. If anyone forces you, because according to the law, remember, they could actually do that. They could force you to carry something. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, look what Jesus says. Go with them 2 miles. It's like, well, wait, what? This was so jarring to the people that were there, that were listening to this. I mean, you'd think that maybe Jesus would say, you know what, hey, if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, you know what, just do it, but you don't have to like it. Or you know what, just do it and try to have a good attitude. Or like, just do it. Go the 1 mile and do it with a smile, even though you don't feel that way on the inside. Just do it with a smile. Just do it and don't complain. But no. See, Jesus wanted others to see something in his followers that was so different that it made them question why. He says, whenever he asks you to go 1 mile, then I want you to volunteer to carry whatever it is for another mile. So that the person that you're carrying that thing for looks at you and says, what is that about? That is so different. That's so unlike everybody else. That's so generous. That's so kind of them. See, here's what Jesus was saying. I want you to shock everybody else with your response. I want you to work to shock everybody else with your behavior. I want you to shock people with your generosity. I want you to shock people with your willingness to serve. I want you to shock people with how far you're willing to walk with somebody, or how far you're willing to walk for somebody. And so fast forward a couple thousand years here in 2024, what does that look like today? Well, here it is. If anyone hires you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. That whatever you're asked to do as part of your work, then you just do a little bit more. Not just so that you'll get noticed and maybe get promoted. I think Jesus was like, those are okay things. That's part of it. But there's something that's so much more, so much bigger than just that. Because you are the light of your work world. So I want you to work in such a way that it gets the attention of those around you. And it helps them make a connection from how you do what you do to the reason why you do what you do. That it's because of him, because of God in your life. Because remember, one of the primary purposes of your life at work is to show that God is at work in your life. And so here Jesus introduces this idea. And then he goes on to try and make it so simple so that we can't possibly miss it. I want you to look at what he says, and I want you to think about this within the context of your own work, about what we do in our work worlds. Now, side note, I want to say this. I can't overstate how incredibly impactful this was. Listen, it was this kind of teaching that changed the world. It was this kind of radical behavior that changed the world. Listen, Christianity would have never made it out of the first century if it weren't for the fact that there were Christians who actually did this stuff. They actually lived out the stuff that Jesus taught. And it was so different, so unusual, so shocking to everybody else around them. It got some attention, and it eventually changed the world. And so here it is, Luke chapter 6, verse 27. But to you who are listening, I say, love your enemies. Hey, question, do you have any enemies at work? Well, if you don't, just give us some time, because odds are that at some point you probably will. And when you do, Jesus says, how do you respond? You love them. He goes on, he says, do good to those who hate you. You ever hear someone talk about that? Well, she hates me. Okay. Well, do good to her. No, you don't understand. She hates me. I mean, I don't even like her. You know what I'm saying? Jesus said, no. You're missing the point. This is a great opportunity for you to blow her away, blow him away by doing good to that person. He goes on, he says, bless those who curse you and pray for those who mistreat you. Now, listen, I've been a follower of Jesus for a long time. Nobody does this. Like, nobody really prays for those who mistreat them. Like, we pray that they fall on a stick. We pray that Jesus would take them home. Just take them home to heaven. You can even be heaven. I'm okay with that. But just get rid of them. But we hardly ever are willing to pray for our enemies. Man, that's so different. That's extra mile. That's other. That's the kind of radical thing that Jesus calls his followers to do. And then Jesus goes on, he says it even better. Verse 31, he says, do to others as you would have them do to you. And so at work, when you don't know what to do, you don't know how to respond, just stop and think, you know what? How would I want to be treated in this situation? And Jesus says, just do that. How would I want to be given the benefit of the doubt in this situation? Do that. How would I want to be listened to? What kind of patience would I want to be shown if I was on the other end of this? What kind of kindness would I want them to show me if I was on the other end of this? Then just do that. How would I want somebody to tell me the truth? Just tell me the truth. Tell me straight. If I was in their shoes. And Jesus would say, then just do that. Do to others as you would have them do to you. It's like Jesus is saying, that's how you follow me at the workplace. That's how you be the light of the world at work. And that's how you go the extra mile. He goes on here and he elaborates a little more, and he shares a little bit of the reason why this is so important. Verse 32. It says, if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. He says, hey, if you're only nice to people who are nice to you, that's normal. Like everyone does that. No one's gonna notice that. That's not light in the world. That's just more darkness in the dark. That's all that is. He goes on, he says, and if you do good to those who are good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do that. It's like even that guy who's a jerk to everybody does that. Hey, that's no big deal. There's nothing special about that. But you as a follower of Jesus, you're called to go above and beyond. You're called by God to go the extra mile. You're called by God to be light in the world, light in the darkness. And then he says, if you do that, look what he says will happen. Verse 35. Then your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High. In other words, you'll be like your Father in heaven, because he is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. What's interesting about this to me is that if that's true, then the truth is that the worse a place is to work, the greater the opportunity you have to be light in that world. Like the nastier your boss is, the brighter your light can shine in that environment. Now listen, some of you, you've been praying a long time. God, get me out of here. I don't like it. I don't like some of these people. Some of these people don't like me. Like it feels so dark, so heavy, so hard at work. Like, why am I even here? I hate everything about it. It's not my dream job. It's not anybody's dream job. Why am I here? And I know what you're talking about, because I've had that job before. And hopefully one day God will answer that prayer for you. But right now, you need to remember that you are the light of that world. You're the light of that world. You've been strategically placed by God right where you are for this moment to be a light in the darkness. And you can do that simply by choosing to go the extra mile. In Colossians chapter 3, the Apostle Paul reminds us to make sure we do our work, he says, with all of our heart. Like not some, not part, but all of our heart. And for some of you, part of the reason why you're so dissatisfied with your work is because you stopped doing it with all your heart a long time ago. I mean, you show up, but just barely. Kind of mope your way through the day. You see work as like some necessary evil, like because you had like fun on the weekend. You know what I'm saying? And so like this is a penance deal or some kind of thing like that. Look, if that's how you approach work, then no wonder you hate it so much. Our work was meant to be enjoyed. But listen, one of the most important things that you can do for yourself and for everybody else that you work with is actually make sure that you do your work with all your heart. That means that you've got to bring your energy to it. Every time we talk about work, I make sure I bring this up because that's how important I think this is. In fact, we said it this way. The most important thing that you bring to your job every day is your energy. Hands down. The most important thing you bring to your job every day is your energy. In fact, the best people I work with are the ones who bring their energy. I'm talking about people who show up fired up, ready to go, pep in their step, a grin on their chin, ready to make things happen. Those are my favorite people to be around. The most frustrating people I've ever worked with are the ones that are like 25-watt light bulbs. Like they're on, but just barely. You know what I'm talking about? They just kind of mope around all the time. And you're wondering, man, are they okay? And if they're okay today, are they going to be okay tomorrow? Like, are they happy to be here? The truth is, I see these people coming, and on the outside, I'm like, hey, but inside, I'm like, no, like, get away from me, you know? It's like, it's contagious. And I don't know about you, but I don't ever want that to be me. Like, I don't ever want to be a 25-watt light bulb just barely on. No, I want to light up the room. I want things to change for the better because I was there. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you're thinking, but hey, that's just not me. Like, it's not my personality. This isn't a personality thing. It's a choice. It's a decision. Listen, you get to decide what energy you're going to bring into the room. You get to decide what energy you're going to bring to your work. Again, that's a big part of doing your work with all your heart. That's a big part of going the extra mile, is just choosing to bring your energy to it. I love this quote by Emerson. He said, "Nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm." Come on, God has given you work to do. He's given you a job to do. And so choose to bring the type of energy that assignment deserves. And so as we look at what Jesus says here in this passage, and we try to apply it to our work worlds, you're essentially left with the golden rule of work. Here it is. Work unto others as you would have others work unto you. Work unto others as you would have others work unto you. Like, make sure that you work and do your job the way you would want others to work if you were the boss, if you owned the company, if it was your deal that was on the line. You know what I'm talking about? That's how you should work. Or maybe this way: manage unto others as you would have others manage unto you. Or boss unto others as you would have others boss unto you. You be the kind of boss that you wish you had, maybe never had the opportunity. You be that kind of a boss. Any salespeople watching? Here's one. Sell unto others as you would have others sell unto you. And I know you're thinking, oh, okay, if I did that, if I had to be honest, I would never sell anything, right? Like, if that's the criteria, I'm just telling you, like, in my industry, it's a little shady. Man, if that's you, like, if your conscience takes a hit every time somebody signs on the dotted line, or every time you think about what you do, if that's hard for you, because you're like, oh, I know it's just not right. Here's what I want to encourage you to do. I want to encourage you to take that to God and just say, God, would you, like, until you're able to help me find another job, would you help me or show me how to honor you in this industry, how to honor you in this company, how to honor you with this product in a way that maybe it has rarely ever been done? Would you show me how to honor you, how to present this thing in a way that honors you? I believe that God will answer that prayer, that he'll honor your heart in that. He'll go on, barista unto others, as you would have others barista unto you. Or what about your specific job? Fill in the blank. Blank unto others, as you would have them blank unto you. Now, can you imagine if we all did that? Like, what kind of a difference would that make in our city? Like, what if we all showed up at work tomorrow ready to go the extra mile, ready to do our work with all of our heart, not some, not part, but all of it? What if we decided to bring our energy, to give our absolute best? What if we showed up at work tomorrow knowing that every person that we lock eyes with is someone who matters deeply to God, and that we have an opportunity, by the way that we treat them, and by the words that we say, and by the encouragement that we give, and by the example that we set, to be light in that world? Like, what kind of a difference would that make in our city? What kind of a difference would that make in your office? What kind of a difference would that make in your life if you just chose to do that? Listen, for some of you, the most spiritual thing that you could do this week is just do your work well. That's why I get so fired up whenever I see people at Epic that are killing it at work. I love that so many of you are just incredible employees. I love that so many of you are awesome bosses and business owners. I love that so many of you are leading and succeeding in the marketplace, succeeding in your field. I love that whenever people see you do what you do, they're inspired because there's something different about the way that you do it. It's because you know that your work matters to God. And so you do it with all of your heart. Gang, at the end of the day, how you work matters. Partially because the people around you matter to God. I mean, it's so much the case that God placed you there to be a light in that world. So starting tomorrow, Man, bring your energy to work. Bring solutions. Quit responding to other people the way that they respond to you. Tomorrow, shock somebody with how far you're willing to walk with them. Tomorrow, shock somebody with how far you're willing to walk for them. And see what God does as a result. Yeah? You challenged? Encouraged? I hope so. Let me pray for you. God, we love you. Thank you so much that you first loved us. Lord, I pray you give us the wisdom to know what to do with what we just heard and the courage to do it. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, hey, everybody. Hope you're challenged and encouraged. See you next week.
Thanks so much for that message, Ken. Hopefully you're feeling both challenged and encouraged and ready to go out and make a difference in the work that you do. If you need a little reminder, you got this. Hey, and listen, if this did encourage you today, chances are it could really encourage someone else in your life. So be sure to take time to text this episode to a coworker or share this on social. And listen, before you go, would you go ahead and take time to like, comment, and also subscribe to this channel and get in a group? Hey, don't miss out. Well, hey, I can't wait to see all of you right back here next week.